You think you're loving deeply, but the truth is you're terrified. You convince yourself you care, but all you're really doing is holding on for dear life. As an empath, you soak up everyone else's emotions, often mistaking their pain as your own. You tell yourself if you let go, if you step back even slightly, they'll crumble without you. But what if underneath all that compassion isn't love, but fear? Fear of being left behind. Fear of becoming invisible if you're no longer someone's emotional anchor. What if the intensity of your feelings is actually a desperate attempt to fill your own void? Pause for a second and face the truth you've been avoiding. Are you truly loving them or just gripping them tightly because you're terrified to confront your own emptiness? Carl Jung called this hidden part of you the shadow, the dark corner of your soul where all your unspoken fears and suppressed wounds hide. Your shadow tricks you into believing that holding tighter means loving deeper, that sacrificing yourself means you're valuable, worthy, irreplaceable. It makes you mistake emotional self-destruction for unconditional love. But what happens when you keep holding on to something you mistakenly call love? What if, with every tightened grip, you're not preserving the relationship? You're losing your own identity. What if every effort to save them only pushes you further into a quiet despair, pulling you away from who you truly are? She always felt things deeply, far deeper than anyone around her seemed to understand. On a quiet evening, she sat next to the person she loved, feeling a heavy silence settling between them, growing wider by the minute. She sensed his distance clearly, like a cold breeze slipping silently beneath a closed door. Yet, instead of acknowledging it, instead of gently speaking the truth or giving space, she tightened her grip even more. She endured his unexplained irritability, the coldness of his silences, believing that if she just held on a bit longer, gave a bit more, endured quietly enough, he'd finally see her worth. If she could only prove how deeply she loved, how selflessly she gave, surely he would stay. But the tighter she held, the emptier she felt. Her chest ached from trying to absorb all of his pain, hoping desperately that it might spare him and, by extension, spare their relationship. The truth she couldn't admit, even to herself, was that she wasn't holding on because she loved unconditionally. She was holding on because she was terrified. Terrified that if she stopped being the healer, the caretaker, the emotional savior, she'd lose all value. Her identity had become inseparable from the role she played. Always available, always absorbing, always rescuing. Pause here and ask yourself honestly, have you too been playing the hero in someone else's story? Quietly neglecting your own wounds in the process? When you're an empath, it's dangerously easy to mistake sacrifice for love. You don't see the boundary between their pain and yours, their wounds and your responsibility. Every emotion around you seeps into your skin, as if the only way to love is to bear the suffering of others. And in doing so, you silently tell yourself a devastating lie, that your worth depends on how much you endure for someone else. If you don't recognize this, you'll wake up one day exhausted, bitter, and disconnected. You'll find yourself questioning why, despite how deeply you love, you feel increasingly worthless. How can giving so much lead to feeling so small? How can someone who loves this fiercely feel so painfully empty? Because real love, at its core, isn't about draining yourself until there's nothing left. But when your identity depends on your role as the healer, the fixer, you become trapped. You cannot walk away, even when it breaks you, because walking away means abandoning your very sense of self. Eventually, the price of this emotional entanglement ripples through every part of your life. Your relationships become burdensome, fraught with resentment you can't openly express. Conversations lose their ease and turn heavy, suffocating beneath unspoken truths. Friends withdraw, sensing your preoccupation, while family members grow concerned yet confused by your sadness. Even your professional life suffers. Your mind wanders, productivity drops, and the sense of purpose you once had dissolves into a quiet desperation. Your emotional health deteriorates, sleep eludes you, and anxiety becomes an unwelcome but constant companion. One morning, you stare into the mirror and no longer recognize yourself, wondering, when did I become a stranger? You've spent so long absorbing the emotions of others that your own have become foreign. Whose life are you even living? Ask yourself now, how much longer can you live in someone else's emotional shadow before you completely lose sight of who you are? Yet, there is a powerful truth hidden within your pain, waiting quietly beneath the exhaustion. Letting go is not abandonment, it's acceptance. Accepting the reality that true love never demands that you sacrifice your identity to save someone else. It's about realizing that love doesn't hold hostage, it sets free. The fear of releasing your grip comes from misunderstanding what love genuinely requires. Think of holding sand in your palm. If you grip too tightly, the grains inevitably slip through your fingers. It's only when your hand gently opens, relaxed, and steady that the sand stays put. Relationships, emotions, and even identities work the same way. The harder you hold on, the faster they slip away. True connection grows stronger in freedom, not captivity. Love is strongest when offered, not demanded. Could it be that the relationship you're desperately trying to hold together would thrive far better if you weren't strangling it out of fear? Could it be that by letting go, by trusting the strength of what you've already built, you'd rediscover yourself and maybe even find that you're already complete, worthy, and whole? Because ultimately, the act of releasing isn't about pushing others away. It's about stepping back into your own truth, reclaiming the power you've been so eager to give away. You don't lose love by letting go. You release your desperate grip on a relationship that was never supposed to be your entire identity in the first place. You are not responsible for healing every wound you see. You're not obligated to carry every hurt you sense. Your worth is not measured by how deeply you feel someone else's pain. You can feel, empathize, and love profoundly, yet remain firmly rooted within yourself, never again losing touch with your own inner voice. And so now, ask yourself clearly, with gentle courage, can you finally trust enough to loosen your grip? Can you believe, even for a moment, that love doesn't require you to sacrifice your sanity, your identity, or your emotional well-being? Because if you can, you might discover something extraordinary. The love you feared losing by letting go was actually waiting patiently for you, ready to meet you exactly as you are, free, whole, and finally home within yourself. The truth hits you like a sudden rush of icy water. You've been holding on to them so tightly, not because your love is pure and unconditional, but because deep down, you've never truly believed you're worthy of love unless you sacrifice yourself. All the pain you've absorbed, all the sleepless nights, the silent tears, the emotional exhaustion, none of it was ever about loving them enough. It was always about desperately trying to earn your own right to be loved. It's as if you've been stranded at sea, clinging to someone else because you believe it's your only chance of survival. You grip their arm, their life jacket, their very presence, convinced that without them you'll sink beneath the waves. But what you haven't realized until now is that this tight grip, this frantic attempt to stay afloat by holding another, is not saving either of you. Instead, it's pulling both of you deeper into darkness. Take a moment to imagine it vividly. You're struggling in the middle of an endless ocean, water rising, breath shortening, your heart racing in panic. You grasp desperately at the person beside you, believing they're your anchor, your lifeline. But each time you pull tighter, you see panic reflected back at you. The more you cling, the faster both of you begin to sink, entangled, trapped in fear and mutual despair. But now, consider the possibility that what you're doing isn't love. It's fear dressed up as devotion. Ask yourself honestly, if letting go is the only way for you to finally breathe, Would you dare to release your grip? Because here is the real revelation hidden in this moment of clarity. You are not drowning because you lack strength, but because you never trusted your own ability to float. You never allowed yourself to believe that beneath your fear, beneath your frantic grasping, lies a natural buoyancy, an inner strength that's always been there, quietly waiting for your acknowledgement. Ask yourself again, clearly and directly, are you brave enough to trust the strength you've always carried within? What would it feel like to finally unclench your tired fingers, to release the crushing weight of responsibility you've placed on yourself, and simply let the water hold you, gently lifting you back to the surface? When you cling desperately to others, you're not protecting yourself from abandonment. You're reinforcing a deep-seated belief that without self-sacrifice, without endless giving, you're fundamentally unlovable. You've convinced yourself that love is a reward granted only after you've suffered enough. But real love never demands you sacrifice your identity, your sanity, or your breath. Real love, in its purest form, allows you to exist exactly as you are, free, authentic, unburdened. Can you feel the quiet power that lives in letting go? The liberation that comes when you realize the person you've been holding on to doesn't actually define your worth, that they never held the key to your survival, your happiness, or your value, that in fact, the only one who ever held that power, the only one who can truly rescue you, is you. Imagine, just for a moment, loosening your grip, feeling your muscles relax, feeling your heartbeat steady as you finally stop fighting the ocean. You expect to sink, to disappear beneath the waves, but instead you rise. Gently, naturally, effortlessly, you float upward, breaking the surface, breathing deeply for what feels like the first time in years. Above you is the vast, open sky, limitless, clear. The water supports you effortlessly, teaching you the truth you've always needed to know. You never had to fight this hard. You never needed to sacrifice your entire self just to survive. Now reflect again, deeper this time. Have you spent your life believing that being needed is the same as being loved? How much pain have you carried? Not because it belonged to you, but because it was your way of proving your worth. How much longer will you punish yourself for a story that's never been true? This moment of awakening changes everything, shifting your perspective from fearful gripping to quiet acceptance, from emotional slavery to genuine freedom. When you finally see the truth, that love doesn't require endless sacrifice, you unlock a door inside you. Behind it is a strength you forgot you had, a quiet power that no longer depends on someone else's approval, someone else's pain, someone else's presence. Yet even now you hesitate. You wonder if you let go, will you lose everything you've ever known? Will you vanish into loneliness, emptiness, invisibility? The fear surges again, whispering familiar lies. But this time, something inside you answers clearly. You don't vanish when you release your grip. You finally appear. You finally meet yourself clearly, maybe for the first time. But there's something else, a hidden truth that Carl Jung once warned about those who desperately cling to love. Something powerful, something crucial that you've overlooked in your journey to hold on to others at all costs. It's a truth that could forever change how you view yourself in every relationship you've ever had. Letting go doesn't destroy love. It's your desperate grip that's slowly suffocating it. Every time you hold too tightly, believing you're preserving something precious, you're actually diminishing its chance to flourish. You're not losing someone else when you open your hands. You're finally finding yourself. You've spent so long gripping tightly, mistaking control for care, sacrifice for devotion, pain for proof of love. But ask yourself honestly, has this ever truly made you feel whole? Has it brought you closer to peace or pushed you deeper into emptiness? Imagine a garden. Love is the flower you've desperately tried to nurture, but you've poured water continuously, drowning the roots instead of allowing them space to breathe and grow. By letting go, you're not walking away. You're stepping back, allowing life to move naturally, trusting that genuine love needs room to thrive on its own. Can you trust yourself enough to release your grip, knowing that true connection doesn't vanish when you loosen your hold? It deepens. Can you finally recognize that the one you fear losing most isn't the other person at all, but the wounded, frightened part of yourself that believed love required endless sacrifice? This moment of clarity can become your greatest liberation, guiding you gently toward who you've always been beneath the pain, beneath the fear. A self-complete and whole, needing no proof of worth through emotional sacrifice. You never had to lose yourself to prove you were valuable. The simple yet powerful truth is this: you are inherently worthy, inherently lovable, inherently enough. Now take a deep breath and decide, right here, right now, to choose freedom over fear, truth over illusion, yourself over endless self-sacrifice. If these words resonate deep inside you, if you feel seen and understood in ways you haven't allowed before, leave one simple word below: release. Because perhaps this single word is exactly the permission you've always needed, the first courageous step toward finally letting go of what was never yours to carry, freeing yourself from a burden that was never meant for you, and stepping back into the quiet strength that's always been your birthright. Type release below and allow your healing to begin.